Okay, this is part 5 of the series. If you haven't seen the other ones, please go back and take a look at them. But here we're at the point of looking at child sacrifice and firstborn, and like the firstborn of Egypt and all of that. So let's look into this. The Encyclopedia Judaica states the following. Owing to his favorite status, the firstborn was considered the most desirable sacrifice to a deity where human sacrifice was practiced. In a prophetic passage, the sacrifice of the firstborn is singled out, that is, offering which might be supposed the most efficacious for expiation. You look in Micah 6:7 for that. The importance of the Beknor, or firstborn sacrifice, is dramatized in the saga of the 10 plagues God inflicted upon the Egyptians, the last of which struck down their firstborn children, if you remember. This serves as the etiology of the legal cultic requirement that the male firstborn of man and beast were devoted to God. Let me interject in here. There was a time, supposedly, that maybe right before the Hyksos release, that there was a huge famine on the land, 7 to 10 years worth, and it really put such a drought and a problem on the land and everyone around them that everybody came to Egypt for help, and they were not willing, apparently, to go to the last grain for themselves to give it away. So in the greed of themselves to make sure that they were going to make it through, the other people that were looking at them for help turned to child sacrifice and cannibalism to help make it through. And they kind of blame it on the Egyptians. This is where you get that real I hate Egyptian thing in the Bible from this all coming and stemming from about this, and perhaps from the Hyksos release and half of Egypt not liking the other half anymore, and or what had happened during all this that caused the destruction. And people aren't really sure. It's not really looked at and seen, but one thing, if you'll look at my video on Egyptian red and blonde haired pharaohs, it shows you there was a lot of, white pharaohs back then, and they left, and the black people had pulled in after that, the Nubians and Ethiopians had pulled in after that stuff, and so they just came in and tried to go business as normal, and it kind of looks that way, but we do see that starts the downfall of Egypt, and they really never hold it together, and then slowly but surely fall apart. And now we're still left to this day wondering how they ever built them or did anything, because apparently the original builders left long, long ago. So anyhow, so the Lord acquired title to Israel's firstborn, human and animal, by having spared them whenever he struck the firstborn of the Egyptians, supposedly. He had some magic demon come out and kill all the firstborn. And a lot of theologians have looked at this and said, no, this was a sneak attack where they ran around killing a bunch of actual Egyptians. But I digress. From Tyrus to Carthage, Israel and his Father in heaven are known. From Tyrus to the west, and from Carthage to the east, Israel and his God are not known. So they're only known in that small little area there. In fact, they even say in the Jewish encyclopedia that Yahweh is not really known over here, although they worship all the same gods, and over here, and they worship the same gods, but here we call it Yahweh. They're going to change its name. It's almost like, okay, everybody's doing the same thing, but here we call it something different, and we're not allowed not to call it different, and we're not allowed to worship it as anything other than this one word, Yahweh. And it's because it's a war cry. And again, people aren't getting the idea here, but Israel is the warriors of God. So this is God's army. This isn't the humble little people going around, ooh, this is Israel is warriors of God. And, they try to make it seem like he who wrestles with God. It's not he who wrestles with God. It's the warrior of El. That's what Israel means. So in the view of this statement about Israel's Father in heaven being known in Carthage, it's most significant and a large sacrificial image built to El was found in Carthage. This image was shaped in such a way that the arms of El were brought together to form a slippery slide which led down into a pit of a fiery furnace, and the remains of human sacrifices were found in its bottom. It is likely that in ancient Israel there were times when criminals who had received the death sentence were offered up as sacrifice or blood atonement for their sins. And this too in a manner not unlike that at Carthage. Indeed, this is the very picture which is portrayed in the 73rd Psalm. Consider the following, people. So you read these Psalms and sometimes they just really look like being something sweetie. But so what we have here is it's that big demon god, and he's got arms swayed out, and then what they do is they pull on these things and it makes the arms slap the guy into a hot plate, which is actually a trap door, and they fall down into a fiery pit that they actually call Sheol or Gehenna, mimicking the tar pits that used to be outside of Jerusalem where they would throw babies and people into for their gods. Yeah, and that's where the gnashing of teeth comes in, and the whole ideal of hell is actually what's down inside that box right there, and that's what's going to happen to people that do bad. In the afterlife, they burn down in there. That's their idea of it. You know, we've twisted it as a modern idea now that all these things and there's under the earth and all. No, 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 no. This was their idea of what happened to people, and the gnashing of teeth was the people writhing to death in that pain. This is what your Israelites used to do. And I've got a question just after this, and then we'll end this one, and that question should be I wonder if anyone can answer it well. But so let's read this. Psalm 73 says, "Truly God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped, for I was envious at the foolish. When I saw the prosperity of the wicked," like down in the hole, "they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covers them as a garment. They scoff and speak with malice. They threaten oppression." So these are people, whenever they're burning them alive, the things they're saying, they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to get you for this." They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. And they say, "How doth El know about my sins? And is there knowledge concerning my corruption in El Elyon? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, until I went into the sanctuary of El, and then understood I their end. Surely did thou set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation, as in a moment?" When they slide down that slide, "they are utterly consumed with terrors." You can read that in your King James Bible and everything, but that's what happens to the people that they sacrifice. That's the way that it looks, and they're trying to look at it from the point of view of somebody being sacrificed right there. And I've got a question for you now, just a simple one, that if you found out that your forefathers and stuff, or let's not say that, if you found out that there used to be a people that developed a religion, and once you looked into it, they used to kill their babies to hope that it would rain, and they really thought that was God. Now later they changed it to something else, but for thousands of years they sacrificed their babies to this God and thinking that was it. So what makes you think that at the end of it they came out with even a good idea of what God really was? It's perhaps that they knew what he wasn't, but how could you get a confidence in these people that used to sacrifice their children going, "Yep, that's the way it goes," just straight faced? And And yet those people at the end of this turn into writing a Bible about the whole thing, and then everybody's like, yep, that's what everybody should be doing. And it's the most foolish statement. I don't really. We should be following these people that for thousands of years used to sacrifice their kids and thought that's what God wanted for rain. You're going to kill people for the rain god. You do realize that South American people were very barbaric and killed thousands of people in hopes of rain, and yet here we find the same type bullshit over here, and you're not calling it barbaric, it's holy. Maybe you ought to question that again.